Hello everyone. So today we will start the fourth lecture on IoT. So in the previous lecture we discussed about the communication models, communication API like REST API, WebSocket based API. Also in the previous lecture we discussed about the various popular IoT development board such as Raspberry Pi, Arduino Uno, Arduino Nano, and various other boards like Intel Edition and etc. Fine. So in this lecture we will discuss about we start with the basics of the sensors. What is the definition of sensors basics? What is its use? What is type of sensors? Then we go on like its various application of the sensors, and in the last we will discuss about the various examples of sensors like the IR sensors and PIR sensors, passive infrared sensor, and the color sensor, ultrasonic sensor, and so on. Also, in the last of this lecture, we will discuss about the industrial IoT and automotive IoT with examples. So now we will start over this lecture, that is your sensor. So first, the basic definition is what do you mean by sensor? Actually, the sensor is the core component of our IoT system. Everything in your IoT depends on the sensor technology. So the sensor technology is a technology for designing the sensor and associated electronic reader circuits and the devices. So basically the sensor technology is a combined term that includes your sensors and its input output circuitry that is used for the pre-processing or the post-processing purpose. Fine. So actually the what is the use of sensors or what is the purpose of sensors? So basically the sensors sense a specific physical conditions that exhibits the measurable change in a characteristic circuit. Basically the sensors measures the physical conditions. So as per these physical conditions, your electrical characteristics of your sensor circuit changes. So your sensors post processing circuits these calculates these characteristic changes and give you output in the form of digits or the analog outputs. So basically your sensors converts the physical energy means light, heat, sound, strain, pressure, temperature into the electrical energy, and this electrical energy is measured by the over microcontroller circuit. Fine. So basically the what are the various physical parameters that your sensor can sense? For example, your sensor can sense your temperature, pressure, light intensity, metal proximity to an object, smoke, acceleration, orientation, location, vibration, smell, organic vapors, gases, and so on. So these are some physical parameters that a sensor can sense. So for example, your mobile phone have a lot of sensors that can sense your touch, fine, that can sense the like color sensor, that can sense the environmental condition like humidity, like the temperature. So all these sensors are embedded in your mobile phone, right? So I already explained a little about the sensor circuit. Basically, the sensor circuit receive the output of a sensor or the transducer. So basically, what is the transducer? So transducer is a combined terms that includes your sensors as well as the actuators. So actuators, I already explained the previous lectures. Actuators is a device that makes the action on the sensor output. Fine. So in the transducer, both the sensor and actuators comes into the transducers. Fine. So we can also say transducer is a collective terms which includes sensor as well as the transducer. So here the sensor circuit receive the output of our sensor or the transducer, and this output feed to the this or sensor circuit, and this sensor circuit process this output. For example, if our sensors uh, give the output variations as per some or physical condition. For example, if the temperature changes as the and the sensor output also varies. So the purpose of the sensor circuit it to change the physical conditions or physical variations into the electrical variations in the form of like current, voltages, phase angle, or the frequencies. Fine, means the voltage changes as per our physical conditions. For example, temperature changes, your voltage also changes, or we can say your resistance changes. Fine. So basically your sensors measures the variations of temperatures or some other physical conditions with respect to some reference or the normal conditions. Fine. So it will vary that physical parameters with some reference. Fine. Or with some reference it calculates its final output with some appropriate calculations. Fine. So here the smart sensor. So basically a smart sensor is a built-in integrated circuit IC that includes your microcontroller part or the sensor circuit part. Fine. So basically we can say this is the ready available circuit. Means the ready available sensor means all the other circuitry like the microcontrollers and other pre-processing and post processing circuit needed for the output is included on that IC. Fine, or that combined IC is called the smart sensor or readily available or the ready available sensor. Fine. So basically, sensor sense the change of the state. Sometimes, in for some sensors or sensors gives the output in form of two states, that is zero or the one. Sometimes this zero can be treated as the off state and one can be treated as the on state. For example, change of the light to the dark. Fine. If it is light, then it means the state is 1. If it is dark, it means the state is 0. Finger touch. Fine. Proximity or the far completion of revolution of a wheel. If the revolution of a wheel is completed, then it gives the output in form of on or off, 1 or 0, or the tire pressure. Fine. So these are some examples in which your smart sensors or your sensors give the output in form of 0 and the 1. Fine. So basically, I am giving one example of your pressure sensor. For example, if the pressure changes, then if the pressure changes, then your physical parameters like pressures varies, and these physical parameters are converted to the electrical parameters, or our resistance changes as per changes of the pressure. Fine. And this resistance measures the amount of changes in the pressure. So your sense values are converted to the your respective electrical signals. So I already explained what is the meaning of transducer. Transducer basically converts one form of energy into another form of energy like the sensors. But what is the difference between transducer and the sensor? Basically the transducer is a collective terms which include the sensors as well as the actuators. For examples, in your microphone, if someone is speaking in the microphone, then this voice is not the electrical signals. This voice signal is converted to the electrical signal, and these electrical signals are fed to the input of the loudspeaker, and your loudspeakers modulates your sounds and give the output again in form of your physical signals, not electrical signals. Fine. So here your physical signals converted to the electrical signal, again that electrical signal is converted to your physical signals. So this is an example of your transducer. Now the sensor type. Basically the sensors are divided on two categories. First based on the output, second is the based on the data type. So based on the output, what type of output it gives. So basically it can use two type of output, whether analog or the digital output. So based on the output, or sensors can be called the analog sensors or the digital sensors. While the based on the data type means which type of data. So basically here based on data type, the sensors can be classified as the scalar sensor or the vector sensors. So basically the analog terms and the digital terms you all know. Basically your analog sometimes is also called the continuous signal. So continuous signals here means the, like for examples, analog signals means this is our output and this is time. So this is our analog signals means the which is continuous with respect to time, while the digital signals means in form of this is 1, this is 0. So your output should be in form of 1 and the 0. Fine. So basically here 1 can be treated as some range of output or 0 can be treated as some other range of output. Fine. So your digital sensors provides the discrete voltage or the signal levels, means your physical parameters like temperature or physical conditions like temperature or pressure are changes to the discrete voltage levels. Fine. While the scalar sensors basically measures the only the magnitudes. Fine. So scalar sensors basically measure the scalar variables which can measure only the change in the magnitude, means the sensors where the only the which can only sense the magnitudes, or where the magnitudes only the important part, only the magnitude is sufficient to give the characteristics or to give the changes in the physical parameters. Fine. For example, temperature, color, pressure. In all these sensors, only the magnitude part is important, not the directional part. Fine, or not the vector part. And the vector means, for example, in the acceleration sensor. Fine. In the accelerometer or the acceleration sensor, the output is given in form of three coordinates x, y, z. Here the direction is also an important part. So those type of sensors are called the vector sensor. Fine. Next is our sensor features. So basically your sensors are sensitive to only the measured property. For example, a temperature sensor only senses the ambient temperature of the room, while it is insensitive to the other changes. For example, it is insensitive to the humidity, it is insensitive to the pressure, it is insensitive to the light. Fine. So if we are saying the temperature sensor, then only it can sense the temperatures and it is insensitive to the all other changes. Fine. Also the second main features of our sensor is it does not influence the measured property. For example, if one temperature sensor is measuring the temperature of your room, then if the sensor suppose your room temperature is 30 degrees yeah 30 degrees Celsius. So if the sensor is placed in this room, then this sensor only find out the this value of your temperature. Fine. So with this sensor, this temperature value 30 degrees Celsius does not increase or the decrease. Fine. So it does not increase or decrease the room temperature. So it only measures the property. Fine. So it does not influence the measured property. Fine. So next one is our sensor resolution. So basically sensor resolution is defined as the smallest change that it can sense in the quantity that is being measured. For example, a temperature sensor is used to measure the temperature. For example, in this room, the temperature is 30 degrees Celsius, and if it is varies 30.1, and this point 1 basically is the resolution, means the minimum smallest change. Find the smallest change that a sensor can measure is called the resolution. Fine. For example, 30.0001 and that 0001 is your resolution. Higher the resolutions, and we can say the better is the sensor, or the sensor quality can be measured in form of its resolution. Second one is the accuracy. So basically, for examples, we are saying this is our output and this is our actual value. For example, this is our actual value, this a is our actual value, and if our sensor measures this a bar. Fine. So how much this A is nearly close to the A bar, or this A bar is your measured, this measured quantity, how should near be the to the A. A is the actual quantity. This is called over the accuracy. Fine. And the second one is over the precision. For example, this is our measure quantity. At one times our sensors measures this quantity A. Output its value is A. So after another times it measures its A1. After another times it measures A2. Fine. After sometimes it measured A3. Fine. So this is called the its precision. So precision is the degree to which the repeated measurements under unchanged conditions show the same results. Fine. So means at different times or in the same conditions, it gives the how much these results are very close to each others. Fine. So this is it's called the precision. Next one is your sensorial deviations. So basically, we can say one sensor can sense the temperature from minus 50 degrees Celsius to the 150 degrees Celsius. So here the minus 50 degree to 150. So here the minus 50 is over the minimum temperature or the minimum range. Fine. And the 150 is the maximum range. Fine. So each sensors have some limits. Fine. And this limits is terms of like at what temperature it can sense. Suppose in this room the temperature is 160 degrees Celsius and we are measuring and we are using one sensors that have the range of minus 50 degree to the 150 degrees Celsius. So at 160 it will give the error, or otherwise it will give the show the 150 degrees Celsius. So basically there is a one term that is called the sensitivity error. So the sensitivity of a sensor under real conditions may differ from the value specified. So all these sensors are fabricated under some specified conditions, and in specified conditions its values are specified. For example, so if we are saying our temperature sensors at 40 degrees Celsius, your resistance increases by the 1 ohm. Fine. Oh, this is only one example. So at 40 degrees Celsius means if we increase the temperature by the 10 degrees Celsius, your resistance is increased by the 1 ohm. But in the real conditions, if we increase the temperature by the 10 degrees Celsius, it can increase to 1.5 ohm. So this 0.5 is your sensitivity error. Fine. So if this output differs from the corrected value by a constant, that is called the offset bias. Means if we are saying okay, at 30 degrees Celsius its resistance is 1 ohm, and at 40 degrees Celsius its resistance is 1 ohm, means the 2 ohm, means increases by the 1 ohm. Fine. 2 ohm. In all the cases, if we are saying resistance is 1.1 ohm, if next 10 degrees Celsius is increased, then it becomes again it increased up to 1.1 ohm. So this, if this change is fixed, and that is called the offset error or the bias. Fine. So next is if the output slowly changes, that is independent on the measured property. Fine. This is called the drift. So basically your sensitivity error can change over the time, and the offset error is constant over the time. Fine. And there are some other factors also that can affect the your sensors, called the noise. And also when the noise comes into your the output signals of your sensors, then also your output can deviates with the time. So I already explained analog sensors gives the analog output as per the physical conditions. For example, strain, pressure, force, flux, vapors, magnetic field, proximity distances. All these are over your analog sensors, which give the output in the form of continuous signals. Fine. So your analog sensors measures the variation in the parameters with respect to some reference or the normal conditions. Fine. So for example, a temperature sensor. So for the temperature sensors, the reference value I am saying that is 100 degrees Celsius. So all the measurements are done with this reference value. Fine. So also in terms of analog sensors, these electrical parameters or the characteristic parameters which changes to the as per the physical parameters would be the resistance or the capacitance. Fine. So if the temperature is increase, your resistance or the capacitance it changes. If the humidity is increase or decrease, your resistance or capacitance can be changes. So this is the way how the sensor works. So next is our analog sensor circuit. I already explained you analogs. Actually, the fully your sensor circuit consists of one is your sensor part. Fine, that this is your sensor part that can sense over the physical conditions. Fine. So first one is your the sensor part. Fine, this one. So the sensor can sense all these physical conditions or the quantity which it can measures. Fine. So this sensors is given this output to this ADC. Here ADC is the analog to the digital converters and others processing techniques. Here is the signal conditioning amplifier and this diode is used here. I will explain what is the meaning of signal conditioner amplifier or what is the use of the signal conditioner amplifier. So this is our circuitry part. Also the output of this is connected to our microcontroller. Fine. So your microcontroller your microcontroller also have the inbuilt ADC or it can use the output from the external ADC analog to the digital converter. So in case of analog, so this sensor is analog, so this output should be the analog. So your microcontroller can read only the digital input. Fine. So that's why first we have to convert this analog output to the digital output with the help of our ADC, means the analog to the digital converter. Fine. So here oscillator is the device which provides a one wave at particular frequency. Fine. Or it is used for the clocking purpose. So here the ADC analog to the digital converter converts this input, this sensor output to some digits. Fine. And these digits can be displayed to the system or to the display devices with the help of the microcontroller. So for example, if this sensor sense one temperature, fine, and that temperature should be analog in nature. So after that that temperature is converted to the 8-bit input. So 8-bit input means the 0 to the 225. Fine. So this 8-bit input means it can 8-bit input means the data should be the range of data should be 0 to 225 to 56. Fine. So this output of this temperature sensor is given to the ADC and this analog to digital converter converts this temperature into the 8-bit or 12-bit input, or microcontroller sense this 8-bit and the 12-bit output of your ADC and give the output accordingly. Fine. So the microcontroller can accept only the digital inputs, means consisting of 1 and the 0. Fine. So for example, if we are saying our data should be like 0 0 0 1, so it is the 4-bit data. So what is the meaning of 4-bit data? Here it is the 1 2 4 8. For each digit some level is defined, so it is basically the 8 degrees Celsius. Fine. So only your microcontroller can accept only this data, this digital data in the form of 1 and the zeros. Next one is your signal conditioning. So basically the signal condition is also the part of your sensor circuit. Actually your sensor gives the output, very low output in form of millivolt. So here this millivolt is very small voltage that can't be read by over the ADC. So first this output is given to the signal conditioning amplifier that converts this in this voltage to the acceptable reference limit of our ADC. Fine, which is, so each ADC have some V reference and the V reference plus and the V reference minus. Fine. So This signal conditioning amplifier converts this millivolt to some the voltage range. Fine, and this voltage range is used by the ADC, and this ADC converts this to the digital signal. Next one is your sampling ADC. Actually, the sampling ADC, your intermediate part of the your ADC analog to the digital converter. Here, the first this analog input or the analog output of the sensor is converted to the some specified periodic interval. Fine, which converts them to digits. These intervals are decided as per the frequency. Fine, so the frequency decide the these periodic intervals. So sampling ADC is a technique which converts over the sensor output to some specific periodic intervals as per the frequency of our signals. Fine. So next one is your serial port interface. So serial port interface basically this output of our ADC may be 8 bit, 10 bit, 12 bit. So this output is given to the microcontroller input with the help of this serial port interface. So here I am taking one example to read the temperature. So here this is our temperature sensor. Actually, this temperature sensor works on the resistance. Fine, means the physical quantity temperature variation is noted in form of electrical signals, and electrical signals here is the or the electrical quantity here is the resistance. Means the resistance is not the electrical signal, basically it is the characteristics, and the resistance is varies by varying its voltage levels. Fine. So here there are the three basically sensors. One is this one, second one is this thermistor, and third one is this IC's temperature transducer, and these have the input outputs A double dash B double dash A dash B dash and the AB. So here basically all these temperature sensors works on some reference level. Here I am saying the reference level are 0 degrees Celsius or 100 degrees Celsius. So how this sensor works? So basically all these temperature sensors, this 1, 2, 3. So basically all these sensors first creates a table as a function of the temperature. Fine. So an equation or one table. If the variation, for example, if the temperature have the linear relationship with the resistance, then the equation can be used. But if there is a no linear relationship or some exponential relationship, then that particular table is used. For example, so here the table temperature, for example 10 degrees Celsius. So at that temperature or resistance should be A. Next 20 degrees Celsius or temperature should be B. Or resistance should be B, and so on. So this table is created, or some equations means the resistance linearly relationship with the temperature. So if that has the linear relationship, then this equation is used. If there is a non-linear relationship, then this table is used. Fine. And also the microcontroller use I already explained. Basically it is a computing device that reads the output at its port and save the reading in the memory with the basically all the readings or the temperature readings are stored in the memory in the microcontroller, or the microcontroller stores these readings to the some clouds or the inbuilt memory. Fine. And also the microcontroller is used to display this temperature to some display devices. Here I am taking one another example, that is the reading from your capacitive sensor. Fine. So here in the previous examples we use the resistance sensor. Here we use the capacitive sensors. Basically the humidity sensor is the example of our capacitive sensors. Basically it works on the capacitive principle. When the humidity changes, then the capacitance between two plates is changes. So basically the sensor consists of like this thing. So this is our dielectric, this is two plates, two electrodes. Fine. So if the humidity of this environment it changes, then its dielectric constant it changes, and if the dielectric constant it changes, then your capacitance is A epsilon by D. So if the dielectric constant is changing, then its capacitive or its capacitance it changes, and this change of this capacitance is measured by this or this changes can be amplified first with the signal conditional amplifier, then that is given to the input to the analog to digital converter. Fine. And this is given to the microcontroller for display purpose or for the storing purpose with the help of the SPI serial port interface. So our next type of sensor is our digital sensor. So basically our digital sensors sense the or give the output in form of 1 and the 0. So here the 1 corresponds to the certain range of voltages, current, frequency, phase or other electronic parameters. Also 0 corresponds to the some other range. So for examples, in some cases here we are saying 1 correspond to the means if the output is 1, then the voltage range is 12 to 8 volt. Fine. If the output is 0, it corresponds to the 0 to the 4 volt. So it depends on the user. Fine. So 1 can be correspond to the some certain range of voltages, current or some other electronic parameter. Fine. So for examples, some examples of digital sensors are, for example, presence of traffic on a street. Means if some traffic is present, means it gives the output 1. If the traffic is not present, means the clear road, then it gives the output 0. Second example is the filling of a waste container. So if the container is filled up to one particular level, it gives the output 1, otherwise it will give the output 2, output 0. And this output can be sent to the your waste management services. For example, if at the if the your at the dumping site, or we can say the waste container, if at the means are completely filled, then this information in form of 1 and 0 is sent to the waste management services. Okay, it can inform now this container is completely filled, now you have to go and you have to remove the waste from that container. Fine. So basically this is an indicator level for this waste management person. Fine. Next one is the sensing of organic vapors present on the sensing gas leakage. Suppose in this room there is some leakage in the gas. So if the gas sensor is present, it will give the output or in form of 1 and 0, or this 1 and 0 we can give to over the speaker. Fine. If the speaker or the horn starts, it means there is some gas leakage, means the output is 1. Fine. Otherwise the output is 0, means there is no horn. Fine. Next example is your sensing ambient light condition. So these are some examples of our digital sensors. So I am taking one example of a digital sensor, that is the street light environment ambient condition sense. So how the street light works? So basically this ambient sensor or street light environment ambient condition sensor works on the resistance principle or the resistance sensor. So here the phototransistor is used. Phototransistor is basically the sensitive of our light or the dark. So if the light is fall on this NPN transistors, it will give the output B. If there is a light, then the B should be 0. If there is a no light, then B should be 1 in case of no light. Fine. And the microcontroller sense this thing and give accordingly the output. Fine. Now we will discuss some examples of the sensor. So the first category of sensors here we mention first is the temperature measuring and control sensor. So thermistor. So basically thermistor is one type of sensors in which the output of thermistor is connected to the circuit of a signal conditioning amplifier ADC and then the microcontroller serial port. So basically thermistor works on the change in the temperature principle or the thermal principle. So basically thermistor means the change in the resistance as per the temperature. So these thermistors show larger changes in the resistor, with narrow environment temperature range is 120 degrees Celsius to minus 90 degrees Celsius. So basically there are two type of thermistors. One is the NTC and second one is the PTC. NTC means the negative temperature coefficient, means the resistance decreases with increase in the temperature. This is the meaning of negative temperature coefficient. Second type is the PTC. PTC means the positive temperature coefficient. In this type of thermistors, the resistance increases with increase in the temperature. Fine. So a thin wire of platinum or other metallic alloys so nearly linear change with the temperature, and they works on the, or they measures the values very wide range of temperature 0 to the 1600 degrees Celsius. Fine. And the some examples of the thermistors are AD590, or the other one is LM35. There are other thermistors also, or other temperature sensors also, like LM34, DS18B20, DS1620, LM9402, NTC103, and various other type of thermistors. So here we will discuss two type of thermistors, or two thermistors. One is AD590 and second one is the LM35. So basically AD590 is a two terminal. So here the three pins but two terminals. So AD590 function as a temperature transducer that generates 1 milliampere, means 1 milliampere current is generated for 1 degree Celsius rise in the temperature. So basically this works on the NTC, negative temperature coefficient, and its temperature range is minus 55 degrees Celsius to the 150 degrees Celsius, maximum or the minimum temperature range which this AD590 can measure. Fine. And this is the diagram of this or figure of this AD590. Basically this one, this third one is your ground pin. Fine. And this one is your positive, and this one is the negative terminal. So these are two terminals, positive, negative, and the three pin device. Fine. Second one is LM35. So basically the minimum and maximum input voltage for LM35 is minus 2 volt to the 35 volt. Typically it works on the 5 volt basically. Okay. And the range of the temperature that it can measure is minus 55 degrees Celsius to the 150 degrees Celsius. And also there will be the rise of 10 millivolt for every 1 degree Celsius rise in the temperature. So it is low cost thermistor. So basically this is its diagram. So it has three pins. One is your 5 volt, second one is analog output, and third one is a ground, similar to AD590. So next one is the humidity sensor. So basically humidity sensor measures the humidity present in the environment. Fine. So humidity means the moisture. So basically the humidity, the ratio of moisture in the air to the highest amount of moisture at a particular air temperature is called the relative humidity. So all humidity sensors measures the relative humidity. So relative humidity is basically the ratio of moisture, means the actual ratio of moisture to the highest amount of moisture at that particular temperature is called the relative humidity. So each humidity sensors give the output in form of relative humidity percentage. Fine. So basically the humidity sensors also have the input supply at positive, and there are two terminals, positive and the ground. Fine. And it will give the output in form of VRH. Fine. VRH means the reference or the relative humidity. It gives the output. Fine. So due to the humidity, basically this humidity sensors works on the three type of humidity sensors, or works on the three electrical characteristics. One is your capacitive, second one is your resistive, third one is the your thermal. Fine. So your output voltage in the humidity sensors is proportional to the relative humidity. Fine. So in the humidity sensors, out voltage VRH give the value of your relative humidity, or we can say alternatively we can say VRH as a function of the RH percentage. Fine. So here are some examples of these sensors. These examples are DHT11, DHT22, AM2302, SHT71, etc. Fine. And actually the SHT3X is the most versatile sensor, and SHTW2 is the smallest humidity sensor, available in the market. So now we will discuss the characteristics or some features of two sensors, DHT11 or DHT22. So basically the features of DHT11. So first I will show you the DHT11. So this is our DHT11 sensor. Basically this DHT11 is your temperature and the humidity, means both the thermistor part is also available and the humidity sensing component is also available inside it. So basically it is ultra low cost, and it 3 to 5 volt, it can be work on 3 to 5 volt, and it will give the 2.5 milliampere maximum current. Fine. And it is good for 20 to 80% humidity readings with 5% accuracy, and it is good for 0 to 50 degrees Celsius temperature reading with plus minus 2% degree or 2 degrees Celsius accuracy. Fine. So it gives the data in every 1 second, once in every 1 second, or we can say it has the sampling rate of 1 hertz. So basically it has the three pins. So this one is your VCC pins, the central one is your the data pins, fine, and third one is your ground pin. So we can get the output data from the central one pins, fine. Or some, in some sensors 4 pins are given, so third one from the left, basically it is the not connected pin, fine. So it is not connected to anywhere. So basically there are other also sensors, that is DHT22. So these both are similar, or both give the temperature and the humidity. So basically this is your DHT22. So also this DHT22 have the 4 pins. First one is your basically VCC, then the data out, third one is not connected, and then the ground. So inside of this basically it has one thermistor for the temperature sensing, and second one is the humidity sensing component. Basically this humidity sensor works on the capacitive principle. So this one have the two electrodes, one and the two. So between these two electrodes, if the humidity changes, so the dielectric constant between these two electrodes changes, and accordingly your capacitance changes, and this capacitance give the output. Here this capacitance give the output in form of voltage, or if the capacitance changes, then the voltage generated in that capacitance changes, means the VC changes. So this VRH basically gives the output in form of relative humidity. Fine. So DHT22 have the higher temperature range as compared to the DHT11. Here the temperature range for DHT22 is minus 40 to the 80 degrees Celsius with plus minus 0.5 degrees Celsius accuracy, and also its sampling rate is basically 0.5 hertz, means 1 every 2 seconds. Fine. So also we can say, if we compare DHT2 and DHT11, we can say DHT2 is highly accurate, or DHT22 is highly accurate as compared to DHT11. Our next category of sensors is distance-based sensors. Basically, the distance-based sensors, there are two type of sensors. One is your ultrasonic sensors. Second one is the infrared sensor. So basically, ultrasonic sensor works on the principle of reflected sound waves, or as the name suggests, it works on the ultrasonic waves. So basically, this is our sensors. It has two components. One is your transmitter. Second one is your receiver. So this transmitter transmits the ultrasonic waves or the sound waves. If the obstacle it comes in between these sound waves and this transmitter, then these sound waves are reflected back towards the receiver. Fine. And the amount of time taken between this transmitter and the receiver is used to calculate your distance. Fine. These ultrasonic sensors are most part completely, these are insensitive to the environment. So there are, suppose in the environment there are some hindrance, like some light is available in between that, some dust is available, smoke is available. So your ultrasonic sensors are insensitive to all these environment hindrance factors. Fine. So next one is your infrared sensor. So basically infrared sensors works on the reflected light waves. As shown in the figure, It also consists of your proximity sensors and the infrared LED. This infrared LED transmits the IR waves, fine, or the infrared light waves. If the obstacles comes in front of these IR rays, then these are reflected back towards your proximity sensors, or these receives these proximity sensors receive these infrared rays, and the time taken in the transmitting and receiving of the IR waves is used to calculate the distance between these sensors and this object. Fine. So basically, infrared sensor values normally fluctuate in various light conditions. So these are sensitive to the light condition. Fine. So next one is our ultra. So I will show you one ultrasonic sensors, and the sensors name is HRSR04. So basically this is our HCSR04 ultrasonic sensors. So here it has the 4 pins. So it is seen that the first pin is our basically VCC, second one is our trigger, third one is your echo, fourth one is your ground pin. Fine. So basically this is our transmitter, this is our receiver, this is our crystal oscillator, which provides the operating frequency of, or which provides this trigger waves of or the operating frequency of 40 hertz. Fine. So basically the operating voltage of this SR04 is basically the plus 5 volt, and the theoretical measuring distance, like we can measure the obstacle distance from the sensors 2 centimeter to the 450 centimeter, but the practical cases it is 2 centimeter to the 80 centimeter. Fine. And the accuracy is 3 mm, and the measuring angle covered is basically less than 15 degrees angle, like this angle, like if I can say like this angle, basically this angle is over less than 50 degrees. So means the covered, like if the obstacle is present outside this angle, then like obstacle is present here, so it will not detect this obstacle. Is obstacle is present here, means out of this range it will not detect this. Fine. So its a range is 15 degrees, and the operating current is also less than 15 milliampere. Its operating frequency is 40 hertz. So basically this trigger pin is an input pin. This trigger pin is basically your input pin. So this pin has to capture. So for this pin, first for the initialization, this trigger pin have to kept on for 10 microsecond. Fine. So after that, after 10 microsecond, this acoustic wave is sent by this transmitter, and then if the obstacle is present here, then these waves are received by this receiver, and the time taken between this transmitting and the receiving is basically your delay. And this delay and with the calculations with this delay, we can calculate the distance between our obstacle and our ultrasonic sensor. So next one sensor is our IR proximity sensors. So basically your IR proximity sensor is, or we can say, the active infrared proximity sensors. Why active? Because in this proximity sensor or in this IR sensors, the infrared rays are transmitted. Fine, it transmit the rays. So that's why it is called the active sensor. So basically this is your active IR proximity sensor. So it consists of basically two things. One is your IR transmitter, this white one is your transmitter, and this black one is your receiver. Fine. So this LED is used to transmit the IR waves. Is obstacle is present in front of this transmitter. Then for example, if the obstacle is present here, then the IR rays transmitted by this is reflected back here, and these reflected waves are received by this receiver. Fine. So the distance it can measure, that is the 2 centimeter to the 3 centimeter. Fine. And there are two LEDs also in this. One is your indicator LED, or this one is your indicator LED, or we can see the power LED. Fine. So this one is your variable resistance. So by this variable resistance, we can measure the distance, like this 2 centimeter to the 30 centimeter. We can adjust with this your variable resistance. Fine. So and there are three pins in it. First second, third. So first one is basically your, we can say this one is your VDD, second one is your ground, third one is your output pin. Fine. So this ground is connected to the negative supply, and this VCC is basically the plus 5 volt. Fine. And the output is taken from this pin. So basically it works on the active low. What is the meaning of active low? If it detects the obstacle, fine, so this LED will turn off. If there is no obstacle, then this LED remains in on condition. Fine. So this is called the active low operation. So basically next one is our HCSR 501 PIR sensor. PIR means the passive infrared sensor. Why it is called the passive infrared sensor? Because in this passive there is no transmitter. Fine. So the PIR sensor allows you to sense the motion. Basically all the object transmit some infrared rays. Fine. And this sensor basically receive those infrared rays and give the output accordingly. Fine. So this sensor is often referred as the PIR, passive infrared sensor. Sometimes it is also called the pyroelectric or the IR motions sensor. Fine. So basically this PIR sensor is made up of pyroelectric sensor. So basically this is our PIR sensor. It consists of these round things. Fine. Basically every object, for example some moving object or some human body or something can radiate some IR waves. Fine. So now these IR waves are detected by this this PIR sensor. Find that work temperature for this PIR sensor is -20 to the 80 degrees Celsius, and the delay time is 5 to 200 seconds, and this delay time can be adjusted. Fine, with this variable resistance. Fine, and the sensitivity also can be adjusted. So basically in the sensor these are two resistance. So these are two things, this one and this one. So with the first one we can adjust our delay time, and with this one we can adjust over the sensitivity. Fine. And its detection range angle is less than 140 degrees, and its distance is 3 to 7 meters, and also this distance can be adjusted with the help of the sensitivity. Fine. And also in the sensor, if we see the opposite side of this sensor, then basically it has the three pins, first, second, third pins. Fine. So basically this first pin is your ground pin, central one is your digital out pin, third one is your input pin. Basically 5 volt is used for the input operation. So this is basically the voltage regulators which give the 3 volt to this IC. Fine. And this is over the jumper part. This one is over the jumper part. Also we can remove this thing. Fine. So this is basically our receiver part which receive the IR waves. Fine. So these are three pins. One is your ground pin, second one is your, or the middle one is your, basically we can say the output pin, and this one is your VCC pin. So next one is our light intensity sensor. So basically light sensors are photoelectric device that converts the light energy photons, whether the light energy in form of visible light or the IR rays. The infrared rays are not visible. So any type of light energy that is converted to the electrical signal. Fine. So light sensors are commonly known as the photoelectric devices or the photosensors because it converts the photons into the electrons. Fine. So basically the photoelectric devices are grouped into two main categories. One is which generates the electricity when the light falls on. Those devices are called the photovoltaics or the photoemissive devices. Second one is the which change the electrical properties. Fine. When the light fall on, then their electrical characteristics like resistance or capacitance changes. Those devices are called the photoresistors or the photoconductors. Fine. So now we will discuss our first device, that is our LDR. LDR is also called the photoresistors or the light dependent resistor. So basically So basically this is our LDR, fine, which consists of this around this coil kind of things. This is basically sensitive to the light. This is cadmium sulfate, CDS. So basically this is sensitive to the light. When the light fall on this sensitive part, then the resistance changes, fine. And basically there are two terminals, this first one and the second one. So these two terminals, fine. So and this can be used as a positive, this can be used as a positive. So these terminals are the interchangeable. So when the light falls on here, then its resistance changes, and this resistance basically are measured, and this resistance basically give you output whether the light is present or not, fine. So basically uh, this diagram shows the resistance versus the light intensity. So basically the light intensity, when the light intensity is increased, then its resistivity is decreased. So in the dark, when the light intensity is low, its resistance is high, and when the bright sunlight, its intensity, or we can say the light intensity is high, in that case your resistance is low in the LDR. So basic application of the LDR is used in automatic street light circuit. So in fire alarm circuit also it is used for the activated switch circuit, or automatic LED emergency light, or the night security light. So basically the LDR, when there is no light, then its resistance changes, and as per the change in the resistance, it will give you the output, fine. Or your street light automatically gets on in the dark condition, fine, while in the day condition your street light automatically gets off. So this type of technology is almost used in every cities, fine. You can see this kind of things in your highways, streets, light, fine. So next one is our flame sensor module. So flame sensor module is a kind of detector which is mainly designed for detecting as well as the responding to the occurrence of a fire or the flame. So basically this is our your we can say this is over the flame sensors. So basically this is your IR receiver, fine. So suppose at some distance there is a fire, so this IR receiver detects those rays and it will give the output accordingly, fine. So its operating voltage of this sensor is also 3.3 volt to the 5 volt, and also this is very sensitive. Actually this is very sensitive to the high temperature, means at the high temperature these sensors can be damaged, or this receiver can be damaged. So this sensor is placed at some distance from the flame, fine. So the flame detection can be done from the 100 centimeter distance, or the detection angle should be the 60 degree, fine. So here are the three pins. One is our VCC pins, this one is our VCC pin, central one is your ground, and it is the digital output. So basically here in the slides there are the four pins. The fourth pin means these are the four pins. One is our VCC, second one is ground, third one is our analog output, fourth one is our digital output. But in this sensor, the shown sensor in this video, basically there are the third pin or the digital output. So basically this sensor give only the digital output. It did not work, so, or it did not give out the analog output, fine. But in some sensors analog output pin is also available. So the application of flame sensors are the hydrogen. It can be used as the hydrogen stations, industrial heatings, fire detections, fire alarm, firefighting robot, drying systems, industrial gas turbines, and domestic heating systems, and so on. Our next sensor is your ambient light sensor. Basically, a BH1750 is ambient light sensor. Basically, this sensor is used commonly in your mobile phones, fine, which manipulate the screen brightness as per the environment lightning. You all know in your mobile phones there is an option of automatic brightness, fine. So this IC is used for that automatic brightness. When there is a light, so the sufficient light in the environment, then your phone brightness is decreased, fine. That is due to only this BH1750 IC, fine, or one BH1750 sensor. So basically the power supply used for this is 2.4 volt to the 3.6 volt, and it has the current consumption of 0.2 milliampere, and it's measuring range basically the light range is 1265535 lx. Lx is basically the unit. Lx is basically the lux. Lux is the unit of your luminescence. Fine, that is used to measure the light intensity. So the communication used here, the I2C. I2C is basically the inter-integrated circuit. So basically it is the communication protocols fine developed by the Philips Semiconductor for transfer of data between the central process unit and the ICs fine, and its accuracy is plus minus 20%. So this IC have the built-in ADC converter fine. So we can say this is the smart sensor or readily available sensor. So ADC is also inside it. So it will output in form of digital output. Fine. So it is a highly responsive to the human eye. So basically it has the 5 pins. First pin is your input pin, VCC pin. Next is your ground pin. Next one is your serial clock, serial data, and the I2C address select pin. Fine. So also these sensors can be used to turn the headlight of car on off, basically for the automatic car light system, or it also give the, like in the daytimes your car's headlight or light will get off, while in the night time it automatically gets on. Fine. So basically, this ICBH1750 use the I2C communication protocol, fine, and the SCL, the serial clock and the serial data is used to provide the clock and the data pins for the I2C communication, fine, and it operates on the voltage I already told you 2.4 volt to the 3.6 volt. So this address pin basically is used to select the address when suppose at this IC when two or more devices are connected. Fine. So this address pin is used in that case to select the particular address for that particular device. Next term is our participatory sensing. So basically the participatory sensing is the sensing by the individual or group of peoples contributing the sensory information to form a body of knowledge. So participatory means the participation of our individuals or group of peoples, fine, that contribute the sensory information. So basically it is the combination of the output of single sensors or the group of the sensors, and combinedly they give the one particular information, fine, or also that source, that complete information is also called the body of the knowledge. So PS is the participatory sensing is a process where the individuals and communities use the everyone capable mobile phones cloud services to collect and analyze systematic data for use in discovery of the new fact. So basically it is a collection of data by the individual sensors or individuals or the group of sensors or the group of peoples. Fine. So this figure shows basically the first stage is source of data, second stage is there basically the phase of the participatory sensing process for IoT applications. So here the source of data I already told you, the source of data may be the individual data collectors, for example the communication data for the fire data, waste collection data. Second one is our group of data, for example traffic light sending traffic density, parking available, fine, and the automobile communicating traffic density at different locations. So a group of data, fine, means a sensors give the group of information. Third one is our social site data, so like this is data from the Twitter or Facebook and other social sites. So all these are our source of data, fine. This is our network, fine. So this data is sent to this network. So these are the phase of our participatory sensing process for the IoT application. Now this data, first phase of this participatory sensing is the coordination or identification of the sources. So in the first phase, the coordination between these data sources and the identification of these sources are done. Fine. Now in the next phase, the data is captured from these sources. Fine. Third one, in the third phase, this captured data is stored in particular storage, whether it is the inbuilt storage or on the cloud. Fine. In the phase 4, the processing of the data is done. Means the data is processed as per our requirement or as per the application. Fine. Whether the data is processed from the analog to the digital or some other processings may be done. Fine. Means suppose we need some particular at some particular time of data. So for that particular times we need some processing to extract that particular time of data or particular is extent of data. Fine. Next one is our phase 5. In the phase 5, basically the analytics and data visualization is done. I already explained this analytics and data visualization in the first lecture. So next one is knowledge discovery, and the last phase this is applications and the services. Fine. This data is sent for the applications and the services. So these are 6 phases for the participatory sensing process. So there are various challenges in the participatory sensing. So the challenges are the security, privacy, reputation, and effective incentives to the participating entities. So these are some challenges of the participatory sensing. So next one is our industrial IoT. So industrial IoT, IIoT basically involves the use of IoT technology in the manufacturing sector. Fine. So basically in the industrial IoT, a lot of complex physical machinery communications integrated with the sensors. Fine. For example, some sensors look the rotation of some machines. Some sensors look at the or sense the fault in some particular machines. So basically the industrial IoT is the combination of machine mechanical things and these sensors or the electrical things. Both all these things are combined in the industrial IoT. Fine. So in this industrial IoT there are use of software analytics, machine learning, and knowledge discovery also. So basically in the industrial IoT there is a refining of the operation by using the sensors, and also the refining of business models of an industry can be done with the help of these sensors. Fine. So the examples of industrial IoT are railway track maintenance, mining, agriculture, oil and gas sector, transportation, logistics, healthcare services. In all these services the sensors can be used. Now we will understand this industrial IoT by taking one manufacturing unit, that is the bicycle manufacturing. So these are some mechanical stages of the manufacturing of the bicycle. So in the first phase there is a triangular frame manufacturing process. Next is your cold working and your butting, hollow steel tubes manufacturing. This is phase 2. So all these mechanical phases are some sensors are placed in these phases to communicate the information on completion of the stage. So suppose some sensor is placed here. So this sensor sense the completion of this phase 1. Here some sensor are placed. This sensor sense the completion of phase 2. So next phase is your welding and joining tubes and frame manufacturing process. Then the aligning and the finishing process phase 4, gear assembling, handling bars, stem manufacturing process phase 5, brakes and seat post manufacturing phase 6. So there are a lot of mechanical phases. Fine. So all these phases are connected with the sensors and process data for the communication. Fine. And then in the next phase this data is processed, then the analytics and data visualization is done, and then it is finally sent for the application and the services. So this is one examples of one manufacturing unit. So here all these phases are connected with the help of the sensors, and the data of all these phases are sent to the servers or some central unit. Fine. After the visualization and the process. For the next is the automotive IoT. Basically in the automotive IoT, as the name suggests, is the automotive industry. So it basically involves the enabling of the connected cars, means that how the two cars are connected to each other. That comes into the automotive IoT. Fine. Automotive IoT involves the vehicle to the infrastructure technology. How your cars can communicate with one infrastructure that is not moving. How your car can communicate with your wireless sensor. How your car can communicate with some internet Wi-Fi router. Fine. So also in this predictive and preventive maintenance and autonomous cars. These are some parts of your automotive IoT. So there is a one part that is a connected car technology in the combination of GPS tracking and the internet. So in the connected car technology, basically the automotive vehicles driving through the roads with little or no efforts at all. Basically, it sends the nearby cars and automatically all the functions like brake, speed, and are controlled. So the drivers have to do very little efforts for the driving. Fine. So also it provides the display for the drivers that enables the drive through the shortest route. Means it provides the display of your shortest route. Fine. Also, it provides the customization of functioning of the vehicle to meet the driver's needs and the preference. Also, it gives the notification about the traffic. It protects the car from the theft. Fine, and also it provides the weather conditions. Also, it provides the driver health and behaviors, or it gives this information to the central system. Suppose or drivers is unconscious. Fine. So it your automotive IoT system gives this, or IoT system gives this information to the concerned authority that can stop the car, or your car can automatically stops. Fine. Or this information can be sent to the authority that can measure or that can take the preventive measures. Fine. Next one is vehicle to the infrastructure technology. So how your vehicle communicates with the infrastructure, fine, surrounding infrastructure or Wi-Fi LAN. So basically in this technology, it gives the alert and warning for the forward collision. So if the two car communicate with each other, then they give the warning. Okay, for how much distance there is a car, and you can avoid the collision. Fine. So it can also give the information some blind spots. It give also information or notification about the vacant parking space. It will also give the information of congested traffic on the route of the destination, or the stream live music or listen to the latest news. So all these applications can be possible with the help of your automotive IoT. So now I will give one examples how the automotive IoT works. Basically, here, suppose in the car there is one engine control sensors and the actuators which controls the engine, or if there is a fault in the engine, then the sensor sense that fault. Now there is another sensors at the brake system sensors. If there is a failure in the brakes, then the sensor sense that failure. Then the wiper window screen movement. So if there is a rain, then automatically your wiper starts. So these sensors are placed for that wipers. So this is CAN bus which controls all these sensors. And also there are other sensors available like axle movement sensor, soakers, air conditioning. So suppose it gives if the temperature reaches high, automatically your AC gets on, and if temperature is under control, then automatically your AC will get off. Fine. So also the other sensors like gear assembly and steering sensors, driver acceleration sensors, coolant temperature, oil pressure sensors. So if the temperature of your engines get increased, then the sensors can sense. So all these sensors are available in your automotive car, and this information is sent to the internet, or this information is stored to the cloud server. Fine. Next phase is your predictive analysis and data visualization, then knowledge discovery, and in the last I already told you that the application of the preventive measures. Fine. Suppose if there is a failure in that braking system, then this application or services can take the preventive measures. So now we come to end of this lecture. So in this lecture, basically we start with the analog and the digital sensors, type of sensors like scalar sensor, vector sensor, analog sensor, digital sensors, their type, and also we discussed various type of sensors like the ultrasonic sensors, PIR sensors, color sensors, and the ultrasonic sensors. So I have shown all these sensors to you. In the next, we discussed with the various phases in the participatory sensing process. We discussed about the industrial IoT and we with some examples like bicycle manufacturing unit. Also, we discussed about the advantage and application of automotive IoT. So, student, if you this is very important lecture. If you have any doubt in this lecture, then you can contact me. You can send me mail. So, thank you for your kind attention. Thank you all.